This is tiring, by the way. This is exhausting.
Good, I can keep up with you. Oh, why are we touching? We're like Rocky.
I don't know.
We're like Rocky.
I don't know. That's all I have. Hi, Fran.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Christy.
Yeah. Oh. You could do anything to get people to watch it.
This is really tiring. How long can we do this? Hi, Tina. Hi, Dan. Hi, Kathy. Manny, what's up? Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Our dog is barking right now. We have no idea why our dog is barking. Hi, Nancy. Thank goodness this is almost over. Almost over. Yes.
Oh, we have to keep going.
We have to keep going
Even
because
though
we have
there's
10
no
more
music.
seconds.
There's no music.
We have 10 more seconds.
Oh, there it is.
5 more seconds. Okay, well that is absolutely
awesome.
enough of that. That was. How do you feel about that as an introvert?
Not good. Not good. I'm really tired right now.
You're really tired. That was exhausting,
Ready
honestly.
to go to bed. I know. It was.
But it's great to have you guys. Welcome to another episode
Hi,
of
everybody.
the Mark and Andrea Show. Great to see you guys. So, what day of the week is it?
Wednesday. I know.
I feel like all the days just kind of merged together at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's great to see you guys.
Yeah.
It's great to have you guys on. Hillary, it's great to see you. Valerie, Gilbert, Gail,
Nicole,
Rosemary.
Miss Rosemary.
We miss you, Rose.
Yes.
We miss you.
Thank you, Jan.
I was going to say, I'm not going to say it, but...
I hope you were about to say something inappropriate.
No, it wasn't inappropriate,
Okay.
which would be surprising, honestly.
I love it.
So we have some quick announcements before we get into it. We're still on tomorrow. Tomorrow is Maundy Thursday, and we still have not figured out what
we forgot again
the Maundy
to look it up.
of Maundy Thursday is. But by tomorrow, we'll have that figured out. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then Good Friday, we want you to join us at 7 o'clock for Good Friday and have wine or grape juice and have bread because we're going to be remembering the sacrifice that Jesus made for us, and we're going to be doing that by taking communion the way that Jesus wanted us to.
Yeah. And then, of course, this Sunday is Easter, so please join. I know.
Yeah.
It's come up really fast. So please join us. We're going to be broadcasting our normal service times, and then please share with as many friends as you can.
Nicole wants to know where the pug is.
Oh,
Penny!
I know. Penny!
Penny!
She's tired still. She's not used to such a workout.
Okay. And right after that, we're going to be starting a series called How to Survive a Quarantine Without Killing Each Other. And you guys gave me some great ideas from yesterday.
Yeah.
So one idea that I think I'm going to talk about that's right up my alley, too, as an endurance athlete, is how do you keep going when you don't see the end?
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about that as one of the subjects. Another one of the subjects that you guys suggested is not even this idea of how not killing each other, but this loneliness that we struggle with. So we want to talk about that as well.
Yes. And then we are going to be praying for you guys again. So please type your prayer requests in the comments. And then if you guys wouldn't mind praying for each other through the comments as well, but we'll make sure and pray for everybody. So if you guys have a prayer request for yourself, a friend, family member, please put that down.
Yeah, one of the things that we were totally encouraged by a couple days ago when we asked for prayer requests, again, type in your prayer requests in the comment section, but we were totally encouraged when you guys were even praying for each other's prayer requests.
That's great.
And I'm sure that encouraged other people too. So we want to, if you have a prayer request, if you need a job, if you need healing, if you need anything like that, type that in.
Yes.
But one of the things that I'm totally excited about is that our church has been reaching out to the community to be a living proof of a loving God. And one of the things in particular that we've been doing is we've been reaching out to all of the hospitals in our area. And I just wanted to show you a picture from all the ER staff at Corona Regional. Awesome. That's all of them holding Vantage Point Easter baskets or Easter bags. And here's a note that I got from somebody there. They wrote this back. Good morning. I want to thank you in Vantage Point Church for the wonderful Easter baskets you gave to Alexis and the crew of the ER. She and the entire staff were elated and morale was totally boosted. She said the cards with the awesome verse were the icing on the cake. They loved them. Thank you very much. It meant a lot. So all we want to say is that you guys are totally making a difference. When you guys give to Vantage Point Church, we get to do awesome stuff like that. And so that's pretty cool. Yeah. So today on Holy Week, it's the day of rest. No, it's
called Spy Wednesday.
It's called Spy Wednesday.
Yes.
It's called
because people think that, we don't know for sure, but it could have been on Wednesday that Judas agreed to betray Jesus.
Yeah.
But we don't know for sure.
Yeah, we don't know that for sure. And what we do know is that the Bible is relatively silent on what happens on that Wednesday. But what we think happens is that especially after an entire day of dealing with conflict is what Jesus did going into the temple. And then after an entire day of teaching the crowds, many people think that he retreated away in order to get some rest. So we think that this was a huge day of rest for Jesus. And one thing that we know for sure, most likely, is that Jesus on this day of rest, he probably stunk.
I don't know if you can say that.
Do you know what I mean by that? Jesus probably stunk.
Why do you say that?
Well, why don't we read the verse for today? Okay. Mark chapter 14, verses 1 through 3. This is really one of my favorite passages of Scripture. And it's about, you want me to read it?
I can read it.
You can read it? You want to read it? Yeah. Why don't you read verses 1 through 6?
Okay.
And it's about Jesus. What's the title?
Jesus is anointed at Bethany.
Okay. So why don't you read that for us?
Now the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread were only 2 days away, and the chief priests and the teachers of the law were looking for some sly way to arrest Jesus and kill him. But not during the feast, they said, or the people may riot. While he was in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of a man named Simon the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head. Some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, "Why this waste of perfume? It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor." And they rebuked her harshly. "Leave her alone," said Jesus. "Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me."
I love those verses. And you know what? I bet I'm probably thinking of even some other verses because it doesn't say it here in Mark, but not only was Simon the leper there, and by the way, he's been healed of leprosy, so can't we get another title for poor Simon?
Poor Simon.
How about Simon the Dodger fan or Simon the Angel fan? But no, for some reason, he's cured of his leprosy. That's like saying Mark with cancer when I've been healed of cancer a long time ago. Do I have to be defined by that necessarily? I think that's interesting. But what we also know is that Lazarus is there.
Oh, yeah.
Lazarus is there.
Okay.
And Lazarus, he's probably a little bit sore. He's always talking about the light at the end of the tunnel that he saw. Martha's there.
Mm-hmm. Mary.
Martha, she's always running around, doing her thing. Martha, she would have been a great small group leader, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Loves to do things
running around. Mm-hmm. Kind of like Stephanie Ten Burge.
Oh, yeah.
Stephanie, if you were there, you were such a wonderful small group host.
Yeah.
You did such a great job. And Patria, too. Patria does amazing. Okay. And I think somebody else was there.
Mary.
But then Mary, all of a sudden we get to Mary, and we hear that Mary then, I think we only hear of Mary a couple times in the Bible. And in this particular instance, she takes an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume. So that was most likely about 12 ounces worth of perfume.
12, wow.
So how many ounces are in a soda can?
Isn't it like 8? Or is it 12?
Is it 12? Like a pint is 16 ounces.
Oh, okay.
And so,
yeah, it might be 12 then in a soda can.
So 12 in a soda can, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to imagine like Mary taking the entire contents of a soda can with the most expensive perfume in the world. In fact, the Bible tells us in verse 4 that like it was worth a year's wages. So what is that perfume worth? Is it worth $50,000? Is it worth $75,000? Is it worth $100,000? She takes all of that perfume and she dumps it all over Jesus's head.
That's a lot.
At one time. That was just an extravagant form of sacrifice, and an extravagant form of worship. And here's what I think is the most beautiful part. Not only is it her worship, because worship really is about sacrifice. But I want you to think about this. From here on out, Jesus is only going to be sacrificing. Jesus will be beat. He will be whipped. He will be crucified. But I want you to think about 12 ounces of perfume on him. Like, I hope he wasn't allergic to perfume, because that would have been a nightmare for me, honestly.
Yeah, you're not good with perfume.
No, I'm not good with perfume at all.
You'd be sneezing. Breaking out in dives. Which would make the crucifixion so much
even worse. So much that would make it even worse. But I think one of the things that's cool is that as he's unjustly tried, as he's being whipped, as he's being mocked, as he's beaten, everywhere he went, Mary's smell would then go with him. As he's crucified, as he comes up from the empty tomb,
that's a
everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never thought of it staying with him.
Okay, but what we want to do is we want to talk about rest.
Yes.
Rest after a day of conflict. Oof. You wouldn't know anything about that.
Nope. Not a thing. Not a thing.
No.
Talk about a house full of 5 kids.
Yeah, talk about
There's just always conflict, like either they're quarreling with each other or,
they have to talk quietly. They're upstairs.
Don't tell them we told you. Or they might be giving us a little bit of attitude, or maybe arguing a little bit because they don't want to follow the schedule. Normally they're perfect.
Conflict.
Normally. But there is always conflict, and it's tiring.
Yeah.
Like, it's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
And to think of Jesus in a public conflict, remember yesterday when we were talking about him being in conflict with the leaders. The Jewish leaders. That would be exhausting. So he's probably all tuckered out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you want to talk about this with some of the parents who are online today, but we've really come to a conclusion in our own parenting and dealing with conflict. I think especially as it comes to the elementary age and above, not babies, not infants, not toddlers, but we've really come up with something that we feel like kind of matches how it is that we deal with conflict with those guys. Do you want to talk about that?
Can you just start and I'll chime in?
You want me to start?
You start. I'll chime in.
Okay. One of the things that we want to do with especially our teens, when it comes to toddlers, is that the age? When it comes to toddlers, what we want to do is, Jordan Peterson has a great line in his, what's the book called? Like 8 Rules for Life, 12 Rules for Life, something like that. He talks about parenting, and he says that especially with young ones, use the minimum amount of force necessary to get across your point. So sometimes parents will use more force than is needed.
Come too strong.
So he says, use the minimum amount of force that's needed to make your point. One of the things that we don't do with our elementary school age, but in particular our teens, is we don't punish them just for the sake of punishing them.
Oh, yeah.
So what we want to do is we want to deal with the root of the problem, and we don't want to deal with the symptom of the problem. So let's say Andrea has a conflict with one of the children. what we don't do is we don't say that we're going to take away your video games if the video games weren't really the symptom of the problem.
Because honestly,
or the root of the problem.
That's my that's my
You want to take it all away.
I just want to take away the video games just because I don't like it. Them. And I know that punishes them the most, is taking away the video games. So that's what my inclination whenever they do anything. But I think we've realized it's good to let the punishment fit the crime.
That's good.
So
yeah, because as parents, what we want to do is we want to hit them where it hurts.
Yes, right. So it's always video games with
boys. With boys,
yeah.
It's with video games. Mm-hmm. That's where it's going to hurt. But what we feel like is if the crime was never video games, then the punishment should never be the video games. And so oftentimes when there is some type of infraction within the household, some type of conflict, oftentimes it's created this sense of distrust between the parent and the child, that there is now a relational rift that happens between mommy and one of the children, or daddy and one of the children. So here's what we'll do. We'll say, hey, we just want you to know that we are actually not going to be taking away your video games. And they go, whew, oh my gosh, we thought you were going to take away our devices for the rest of our lives. And then we tell them, yeah, we're not doing that because that's not the real problem. See, the real problem right now is that you hurt mommy's feelings. And so there is now a relational rift between you and her. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to ask mommy out on a date. And so what you're going to do is you're going to ask mommy out on a date, and you're going to say, hey, what we want you to do is say, hey, mommy, hey, I've been feeling kind of cooped up. You want to maybe go out for lunch sometime? And then he's going to take her out for lunch.
With his own money.
With his own money. And then he's going to pay for lunch. And then he's going to apologize to her for the mistrust and what it is that's happened. And it's my job at that point to even kind of coach them on how to do that, how to ask a woman out on a date. I'm going to coach him on how it is that he's going to apologize to the other person. Because here's the thing, if I punish him with video games, one day he's going to get married. One day there's going to be a relational rift between him and his spouse, and then he's not going to know how to deal with it. So what we want to do is we want to use this time right now to make sure that he's equipped for how it is that he can deal with that conflict in the future. Yeah.
And that's been actually really hard for them, believe it or not. It's hard for a boy to ask his mom out on a date. They're just not used to it, and it's really, really, I think, harder than taking away the video games.
Yeah. Oh,
believe it or not.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about rest.
Okay.
Because conflict, rest, right now, I feel like everybody's feeling tired. Yeah. There are a lot of people who kind of feel like they need just this time of rest. But can you answer this? Why do we feel like we need rest right now under quarantine when I feel like we've been tremendously rested?
I know, yeah.
What are we resting from?
We're just sitting around, but I feel
like... We're not even doing anything.
But we're not going anywhere, that's true. But I feel like, is it really rest if... I know you are on Zoom calls and phone calls pretty much all day, and that doesn't seem restful. You seem tired to me, and even for me, I'm helping my kids with Zoom calls, with online work, and then even just getting sucked into my phone and looking at the bad news, so I feel like that's not really resting.
Yeah. You've used something, an Ian Morgan Cron quote that I really like.
Leave the situation room. So
leave the situation room.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't be sucked into the news cycle all day long, which some personalities, I think it's easy to just be looking at the news all day, and you need to leave the situation room. You need to just pull back, because especially if you can't do anything about it, what's the point of immersing yourself in this terrifying news? Just take time out, watch a funny movie, read a book, play a game with your kids.
Because how many of you, the first thing that you do when you wake up in the morning is somehow you want to see what the death toll is?
It's hard. I do that too. I do that. I'm like, how many people died yesterday? It's sad.
We are seeking out bad news. And we wonder why we're so emotionally drained and so tired.
It's draining. Yeah. So that's not real rest.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that part of the reason why we're so tired is because we're so connected.
Well, in a bad way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
connected to news, connected to screens, connected to devices.
Yeah.
So what do we do during this time in order to restore a little bit more balance to the universe?
I mean, I think you have to unplug.
You have to unplug.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
I mean, I think you have to set a firm line with yourself. Like, okay, I'm allowed to check the news, like, maybe in the morning after I've done my quiet time, you could say then, and maybe one more time after dinner or something, maybe like limit yourself.
Yeah.
So that it's not like all day long. But then other than that, I mean, one thing I do is I think doing active things helps. Like if I'm, find a cupboard to clean out, or the kids and I cleaned bathrooms yesterday, and, and we just hung out, or you can listen to a podcast. I see Mary Graham likes to listen to audiobooks. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I am I don't know if I'm a workaholic. Would you say I'm a workaholic?
Not really, but especially when you're working from home, it's hard to separate work from home. So it's like you're always doing a little bit of both.
Yeah. I think especially in the culture that we live in right now, with not only the cultural situation that we're in with the pandemic, but also, I mean, technology really has blurred the line between work and business and pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think especially for my personality, I have a tendency to be a little bit more compulsive. And so something that I used to do that I need to go back to doing is that the first hour of the morning and the last hour of the day were always dedicated to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first thing that I did when I woke up in the morning was I did not check the death toll.
Why? Why?
The first thing that I did in the morning was I wanted to consult with God. I wanted to talk to God. I wanted to be with God. I think what we do first thing in the morning, what we choose to bookend our day with, really shows our priorities. And for me, I mean, being the obsessive compulsive that I am, when it came to post-dinner, do you remember what I used to do with my phone? You remember?
Yeah, you would like put it in a lockbox.
I would put it in a lockbox. Yeah. I put it in a safe.
Yeah.
That I had to punch
Sometimes
in a key
you have
code.
To be extreme.
I had to punch in a key code to get to.
Yeah.
Because I thought to myself, man, if I have to punch in a key code and go into a security box just to get my phone, I just look like an addict. Going.
Yeah.
I got to check my next text.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
extreme but effective.
Extreme but effective. So is there anything else that we can do besides unplug? One last little ditty. I think we're about done.
I think going outside is good.
Going outside is good.
Yeah.
What does going outside do for you?
I think it just relaxes me and makes me focus on like bigger things like God's creation and just it seems more peaceful than being inside and hearing screaming or TV or whatever. So I think going outside is nice. Yeah.
Whenever I go outside, especially because we're surrounded by the hills to the north and the Corona Hills to the south, I always, just even looking at the mountains, I just think of Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the hills.
Where does my help come from?
My help comes from the Lord.
Yeah. The maker of heaven and earth.
Yeah. So anyways, that's us right there. So thank you guys so much for joining us. One of the things that we've done every night is we've just ended by praying the Lord's Prayer. Do you want to do that tonight?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you know the Lord's Prayer, why don't you pray that with us? Okay. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Well, guys.
Thank you. We'll be praying for your prayer requests, too.
We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for joining.
We're just going to leave it on. We want you to start dancing with us, okay?
You sound like such a dancer all of a sudden.
Bye, Lisa. Bye, Ray. Peace out, Brian. Bye, Lois.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Annie. Bye, Pam. Bye.